Warhammer 40K, Rogue Trader, Void Shadows DLC, all companions builds. In this case, we got Cassia or Celio, the ship's navigator, and probably the most OP companion in the game, and definitely the most unique companion in the game. She's a navigator, not a servitor. Let's go.
Are you ready for Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader? Because I am. The Emperor protects.
Let's start from characteristics. What you need on Cassia is extremely high willpower and nothing else. Everything else you should keep below 100 because of itemization. So do not pass 100 on perception or intelligence. This is extremely important. So the main stat is willpower. The main defensive ability is dodge. You don't care about anything else, you only care about dodge. Dodge during combat will go up and above 500%. In other words, no one can touch Cassia. As far as skills go, you only care about lore warp and awareness, and those would be the two skills that you need on Cassia. Cassia is an officer that becomes a Grand Strategist into Exemplar. Why Grand Strategist? Because she always gonna play first. When Cassia plays first, combat ends in one round, even on unfair difficulty. Let's go with Officer. Officer, we go with Voice of Command, into Persuasion, into Bring It Down, into Finest Hour Ulti, into Inspire Courage, into Perception, then we're just taking Navigator powers and in this order, so she will get OP from the start to finish. It has to be in this order. So we take Pass Unscathed first, the Navigator power, then we take Perilous Ways, then we're gonna take Willpower, then we're gonna take Notch of Purpose, the skill of Navigator, then we're gonna take Ebb and Flow, then we're gonna take Blood Augury, all of those are Navigator powers by the way, we take nothing from Officer, then we're gonna take Awareness, then we're gonna take Finest Hour, upgrade number 2, then we're gonna take Lore Warp, into Willpower, always Willpower whenever we can, then we're gonna take another Navigator power, Eye of Oblivion, into Perception, into Bread and Butter for the early game, which would be Point of Curiosity. Then we're gonna take Mind over Matter. Then we're gonna take Nimble, extra dodge, yeah. Then we're gonna take Lore Warp. Then we're gonna take Fellowship, into Strange Vitality. And the final upgrade would be Finest Hour, upgrade number 1 for Ulti. When you have these Navigator powers so early on, you're beginning Act 2 like this. In other words, Cassia will carry every single fight early game with this build. Now, speaking about mid-game, Grand Strategist. Grand Strategist, so Cassia always plays first. We do not care about combat tactics at all. What we care about are, again, Navigator skills and powers. We take Zone of Fear, into Open the Warp, into Ulti, into Action Power Spike Increase, Willpower, into Mastery of Time, into Willpower, into Waking Nightmares, so she debuffs enemies, into Lore Warp, into Tonicity, into Perception, then we're taking Threads and Faults, into Undam the Sea of Souls, then we take Perception, into Lore Warp, then we're taking Take and Hold, upgrade number 4, then we're taking the Course Untraveled, then we're gonna take Intelligence, into Intelligence again, into Awareness, into Boss Killing Spell, that would be Warp Cursed Unleashed, Navigator skill. Then we're taking Guide of Souls, into Unnatural Allure, into Awareness, into Intelligence again. Then we're taking Under My Protection Navigator talent, into Unblinking Stare Navigator talent, and we end up with Ulti upgrade number 3. That would be the Grand Strategist. By this time, Cassia is literally indestructible. And late game, Act 4, Act 3, Act 4, Act 5, Exemplar, we're taking Eager for Battle, where Cassia receives 2 additional action points. If you have an officer in your team, she can play like 3 or 4 times per round with over 30 action points. with consumables combined. In other words, Cassia clears every single encounter on her own with Eager for Battle. Then we're taking Veil of Protection into Lower Warp, into Stable Routes, into Willpower. Then we're taking It Will Not Die, extra wounds, extra health on Cassia. Then we're taking Immolate the Soul for the single target damage. Then we're taking Lower Warp. Then we're gonna take Combat Meditation, into Point of Interest, into Willpower, into Steel Resolve, into Reveal the Light, the first buff for your allies. Then we're taking Perception, into Fire at Will, into Characteristic Training, into Willpower. Then we're taking Awareness, into Malign Influence, even more Willpower with Exemplar, okay? Then we're gonna take Action Points Increase, into Blood of Martyrs, into Awareness. Then we're taking Heroism, Awareness again, Disputed Zone, into Intelligence, into Coercion. Then we're taking Flesh Wounds, so Cassia with her Navigator powers heals at the start of every round, and then she overheals with Flesh Wounds with 300 HP. She's literally indestructible, okay? That's huge self-heal. Then we're taking Iron Discipline, into Strong Point, into Coercion, into Decisive Response, then the Swift Movements, extra movement points for the end. Glimpse of Fate is the broken stuff for the endgame boss, where you're gonna get huge dodge, and then we're gonna take Fellowship into Know It All for extra dodge, into Lasting Impression, and it ends up with Action Point Power Spike Increase, and that would be Cassia. Now, itemization for Cassia. Basically, you want Navigator items whenever you can, okay? Staffs, one should always be devastating, okay? When you deal damage with Cassia, with damage dealing spells, you go with a devastating staff. When you wanna debuff enemies, you go with castigating staff. If you wanna play Cassia as a buffer, then you need an infusing staff. Now, what do I recommend? Devastating, castigating, or infusing? You should be mega aggressive with Cassia, and that's the best way. Infusing is if you want to play safe and keep your allies safe, if you play Cassia as a buffer. I'm giving you a build for Cassia that deals damage and debuffs enemies, so she is Omega carry. So Astronomical Regalia, even though it's the best Navigator staff in a game, I still recommend Red Crystal Staff for devastating effects for Cassia to hurt, and I recommend Orselio Novator Staff when you wanna debuff enemies. I'll explain how it works a bit later on. So, after we're having Red Crystal Staff and Orselio Novator Staff, we want Dark Visionary Hood on Cassia. We want armor with dodge. It doesn't matter. There's like plenty of light armors in a game. The one which gives most dodge, that's the one that you should equip. As far as trinkets go, we definitely want Secrets of the Forerunner on Cassia, because it's extremely OP on her. And we want Chains of Domination for stacking willpower. As far as the trinkets go, I was using Demon Tool. There's like 10 different trinkets that you can use on Cassia. All of them are valid. Everything that increases her damage, increases willpower, all of that is valid on Cassia. But why I added Demon Tool now on Cassia? Because I was playing with Kibela, and Kibela loves enemies that are burning. So Kibela, once Cassia plays as a Grand Strategist and burns everyone, okay, then Kibela comes in with her stacking damage on burning and bleeding. Kibela deals bleeding, Cassia burns enemies, and then Kibela one-shots. This is new archetype in a game, so that's why I opted in for the Demon Tool on Cassia, because she covers the most ground with her AoE spells. It merges extremely well with Kibela, and that's the entire trick with this item. For the gloves, again, any gloves that give any type of dodge, or in this case I gave her Inevitable Demise, you can equip whatever on Cassia. Truth to be told, she doesn't even need gloves. As far as cloak goes, flat dodge cloak, nothing to speak about it, okay? Whenever you see dodge, you want to equip that cloak on Cassia. And boots, expeditionary footwear, Navigator boots for extra dodge. Again, that would be Cassia. You should always have a stim for extra movement points and action points on Cassia. Now, how do we play Cassia. Early game with Cassia. What we wanna do is use Notch of Purpose and Point of Curiosity, give someone extra turn, okay? And we always want to use Lidless Stare as AoE attack and target as much enemies as we can with Lidless Stare. Once you get the staff for devastating, then you're gonna be able to cast Lidless Stare twice. Okay, and if you have an officer, you can cast it 4 times in a round. So you should always position Cassia up front, because she's gonna always play first and she's gonna deal crazy amount of damage. When she kills, she gains dodge and then enemies can't hit her, and she's gonna soak up all of the hits. Everyone's gonna miss Cassia and enemies will waste turn, at least those that survive. But in 90% of time, in 95% of time, no one will survive the first round against Cassia if built this way. So this is like not only the most OP companion and the most OP build in the game, she's completely broken as well with this build. Again, she clears everything and everyone and no one can touch her. She's like a cheat code. So that would be the early game. The late game, she becomes even more OP, because when you see a boss, you're gonna put Waking Nightmare, but you're gonna put Waking Nightmare with Staff of Warselio Navigator, and then you're gonna switch to the Red Crystal Staff. So when you wanna debuff enemies, you equip Navigator Staff, you debuff with Warp Curse Unleash and Waking Nightmare, then you switch to the Red Crystal Staff, and you're gonna use, if it's single target damage, it simulates the soul. If it's a lot of enemies, then it's Lidless Stare. At the end, you can always use Glimpse of Fate for extra dodge, and you can empower anyone in your team with extra willpower and toughness with Reveal the Light. That's how you play Cassia. Basically, I have nothing else to say about it. What you should do, as I said, when you see enemies on a screen, and when she becomes Grand Strategist, she always gonna play first. Just put her in the middle of enemies at the start of combat. She's gonna wipe the entire screen out immediately in the first round. That would be Navigator, Cassia, or Celio. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be seeing you on the next one. Thanks for watching.